What's up YouTube, welcome back to Celio's Network. Today I'm going to show you guys two different lists for the new Cinderace card with Libero from Sword and Shield. So two different ways to play Cinderace, one of the starter Pokemon from Sword and Shield. So even if it's not the strongest card from the set or the most obviously viable card, I do think it has potential and people are definitely excited to play decks with it. So definitely a card I wanted to get covered on the channel. Before we go into that though, shout out to PotownStore.com, your best place to get PTCGO codes, and you can use code Celio for 5% off and support the channel. And also FlipsideGaming.com, where I write weekly free articles. You can use code Celio all caps for 10% off of your next order, $10 or more. So the first one we're going to look at is Cinderace Jirachi. I've seen several lists for Cinderace from Japan, and I actually started testing Cinderace Jirachi back about 2 months ago, I guess. And it was one of the first 4 decks I built alongside Snorlax, Sablegoons, and I believe Pikarom. So let's take a look at this deck. The main card of both of these decks are going to be Cinderace. 170 HP, which is solid for a stage 2. It's not the best, but it's definitely not bad. It has the ability Libero. Once during your turn, when this Pokemon moves from your bench to the active spot, you may attach up to 2 Fire Energy cards from your discard pile to it. So, because of this Libero ability, when we retreat into Cinderace, like Jirachi, or just switch anything into Cinderace, we get to accelerate 2 Fire Energy from the discard pile onto Cinderace. So because of this, I'm actually not running Welder in this deck, just because we can move the Fire Energy. So its attack, which we're accelerating all that Fire Energy for, is Flare Striker. For 2 Fire and a colorless, it does 190 damage. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. So 190 is very solid. Especially when we have great catchers in the deck to bring up the Dedenne-GX, and Fire is a good type to be because of Zacian V, so we can one-shot Zacian Vs. Even if they have a Metal Frying Pan, we are playing a Lysandre Labs in the deck, so Flare Striker one-shots important Pokemon. It one-shots the Dedenne-GX and Oricorio-GX's Zacian Vs, which are on the bench of many decks, and then Zacian V is the main attacker of one of the best decks in the format. So then 4-2-4 line of the Cinderace and a Ditto, just for an extra basic Pokemon to evolve Raboot into, and that's our only attacker in this deck. For support, we have 4 Jirachi with Stellar Wish. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal a trainer card you find there, and put it into your hand. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck, and this Pokemon is now asleep. So Escape Board works well with Jirachi, and Jirachi is just going to help us cycle through our deck and get set up. So find Quick Balls and Pokécoms, Incenses and Supporters and Rare Candies, some important trainer cards. We have 1 Dedenne for just a burst of drawing 6 cards and also emptying our hand. Maybe if we have a couple Fire Energy in there that we want to get rid of, we can discard them with Dedenne. So just the 1 Dedenne, and then 1 Oricorio-GX because of its Dance of Tribute ability. Once during your turn, if any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn, you may draw 3 cards. This ability is very, very good. I think this card's seeing a fair amount of play in single prize decks like Cinderace, like Baby Blounds. So, let's say it's early in the game and we haven't even attacked with Cinderace yet. They knock out our Jirachi that was active, and so we get to draw 3 cards, maybe find our Candy Cinderace, attach Recycle Energy, retreat, Libero pops. We start swinging with Flare Strikes. So, Oricorio is definitely a really good card for this kind of deck, where our Pokemon are usually getting knocked out every turn since we're a lower HP single prize deck. So we can use Dance of Tribute basically every turn. Then looking at the trainers, we've got 4 Quick Ball, 2 Pokécom, and 3 Evolution Incense. I'm not completely sold on this lineup. Like, you could argue for 3 Com and 2 Incense or some other combination, but you're always playing 4 Quick Ball. It gets you basic Pokemon, and it can discard Fire Energy, which you want to do in this deck. We have 4 rare candy because Cinderace is a stage 2 Pokemon and we want to get it down as quickly as possible. I have 2 great catchers for bringing up Dedennes, Oricorios, maybe ADPs, bring it up twice and 2-shot it. Or even Luke Metal in the Zacian Luke Metal variant because it's weak to fire. So Great Catcher, you get to discard 2 cards from your hand, which is good for this deck. You want to discard fire energies. And like I said, it's a gust effect, which is nice to have around. Just 1 Fire Crystal in case you need to attach manually. Maybe you've prized your Recycle Energy, or you want to use Heat Factory again, or you need more discard fodder, or you just need to, like I said, attach manually for turn. 1 normal or ordinary rod. It was called normal rod in the translation. So 1 ordinary rod to get back some of our Pokemon. So if a Scorbunny Cinderace line is knocked out, we can just use Ordinary Rod to shuffle back the Scorbunny Cinderace. That's 1 more line of the Pokemon that we can candy. We're usually using 4 Cinderace in a game, maybe 5 if we do use the Ordinary Rod, but your opponent is more likely than not to knock out a Jirachi or 2, or a Dedenne or an Oricorio over the course of the game. We have 4 Switch, which are very important because of the Libero effect. We need to switch our Pokemon to the active spot for Libero to pop off, and also to move our Jirachis. And then we have 1 Escape Board, so we're looking to use that Escape Board on a Jirachi, Stellar Wish, switch into Libero, rinse and repeat. Cinderace only has 1 retreat cost, so if we ever use Flare Striker and the Cinderace lives, we can just manually retreat with Recycle Energy into another Cinderace. That Cinderace pops its Libero, and then we attach Recycle Energy to it. So Flare Striker and not getting knocked out next turn isn't really a huge concern. For our other tool, we've got 1 Giant Bomb. If this card is attached to one of your Pokemon, discard at the end of your opponent's turn. If the Pokemon this card is attached to is your active Pokemon and takes 180 or more damage from an opponent's attack, put 10 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. So in matchups where we're not one-shotting the defending Pokemon, Giant Bomb can be really good, just as a one-of surprise that you put down at some point of the game onto your Cinderace. So if they one-shot it, they take 10 damage counters, so it's very good against anything that you aren't one-shotting, so like Pikarom, like Mewtwo and Mew, Trevnoir, a lot of tag team Pokemon. For stadiums, we've got 1 Giant Hearth to search our 2 Fire Energy, we've got 1 Heat Factories for some additional draw, and we've got 1 Lysandre Labs to help us go through Metal Frying Pans so we still hit for weakness. Supporters, we've got for Cynthia, 2 Marnie, and 2 Rosa. Rosa is really good in single prize decks that are getting knocked out every turn for the same reason that Oricorio is, so we can search for our Pokemon Trainer and Basic Energy card. And then our energy lineup is 8 Fire and 1 Recycle. So onto the other Cinderace variant, we've got Cinderace Volcarona. Same Cinderace line with the Ditto. You'll see a lot of similarities in this deck, but we're also playing a 2/2 Volcarona-GX line. Once during your turn, you may discard a Fire Energy card from your hand. If you do, put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So this helps us not necessarily one-shot larger HP Pokemon, but knock them out with just 1 attack and multiple flaming shots. And Backfire for 160 isn't a terrible attack if we had to use it. And then we've got a 1/2 Chinchino line for drawing with Make Do, discard a card, draw 2 like trade. And then we've also got 1 Cramorant V. Its Beak Catch is pretty solid. If you're going second turn 1, search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them into your hand. And then Spit Shot, discard all energy from this Pokemon. This attack does 160 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So Cramorant can one-shot a Dedenne on the bench, which is super solid. And I'll just focus on the differences between the trainers in this list and the other deck. So for the trainers, for the ball search, I have the 4 Quick Ball, 3 Calm, 2 Incense. Like I said, you can kind of change this around to however you feel necessary, but always keep the 4 quick ball. We have more Fire Crystal in this deck because of Flaming Shot and needing to discard Fire Energy cards. And then we also have Welders in this deck, so we're not playing the Jirachis. It's easier to Welder in this deck to our Cinderaces, or manually retreat with the Recycle Energy, or use Air Balloon, which gives our Pokemon 2 less cost retreat, to pop the Libero effect. So a bit of a different rotating lineup here, since we're not using the Jirachis and the Escape Boards and the 4 switches. We're using some Air Balloons, 1 switch, and of course we have the Recycle Energy, which you could always manually retreat with if you use Flare Striker and the Cinderace is not knocked out. But we are trying the Welder in this variant as well, and I don't have the Lysandre Labs in here since we do have the Volcarona Flaming Shot, so sometimes you can bypass not hitting for weakness. Well, we can just rack up extra 4 or 6 damage counters over the course of 2 turns with some Flaming Shots. So those are the main differences between the 2 variants. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and are excited to play with Cinderace. I'll have both of the lists in the description below. Be sure to check out PotownStore.com and FlipsideGaming.com. Subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed the content and you want to see more like it in the future. And I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.